Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving into something truly wild. We're breaking down a revolutionary macroeconomic framework that proposes a completely radical idea, actually backing the US dollar with the highest quality early childhood education. We're looking at a theoretical model from a series of documents known as Fed Set 8. Basically, this framework is trying to bridge the gap between high-level monetary policy, public school efficiency, and the literal, physical development of a child's brain.
So, what if early childhood education could literally back the US dollar? I know it sounds a bit crazy at first, right? But let's really dive into this provocative idea. It's a concept that directly connects neuroscience and public school restructuring to actively solve our national debt. The core premise we're looking at today asks a really bold question. Instead of creating money based on national debt, what if we created our money based on the verified accumulation of human knowledge? Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with fiat versus receipts money, define what brain gold actually is, look at how we verify and value this human capital, and then finish up with how this whole system creates and gifts capital.
All right, Section 1, Fiat versus Receipts Money. Let's talk about how money is actually created.
To understand this new framework, we absolutely have to anchor ourselves in the fundamental mechanics of our money. Today, we mostly use fiat money. When a commercial bank issues a loan or the Federal Reserve buys treasuries through quantitative easing, that money is essentially created out of thin air. It expands through credit and policy, meaning it's fundamentally tied to debt. Receipts money, on the other hand, is completely different. Think historical gold certificates or even Bitcoin. This type of money only expands when verifiable, real assets are brought into the system and held in reserve before the money, the receipt, is actually issued. This whole concept builds heavily on George Gilder's philosophy from his book, The Scandal of Money. He argues that the current fiat system actually distorts information signals in our economy. If we accept his premise that true wealth is fundamentally about knowledge, well, then our money creation should accurately signal real knowledge and productive effort. It shouldn't just signal financial debt. So the most robust monetary system would be one that directly receipts the creation of that knowledge. Which brings us perfectly to Section 2. What is brain gold? Listen, brain gold is not just a cute metaphor here. It refers to the literal, physical networks of knowledge formed through ordered effort during a child's most explosive period of brain development, which is ages 0 to 7. The source material emphasizes that enriched, ordered environments, things like highly structured play and constant language exposure, literally build more efficient, high-capacity, physical knowledge networks in a child's brain. These synaptic closings are a tangible physical manifestation of knowledge capital. And this timeline brilliantly illustrates just how critical this window is. From birth to age 3, a child's brain undergoes this massive, explosive phase called synaptogenesis. Then, from 3 to 5 comes the pruning phase, and that is entirely dependent on their experiences. The theory here suggests that if we optimize this specific window with the absolute highest quality early childhood education, by age 5 or 6, we can produce a child who is ready to read, count, and understand positive expectations at almost a third grade level. Moving right along to Section 3, verifying human capital. Okay, so we can't just point to a smart kid and start printing money, right? We have to prove this brain development actually exists without relying on pure subjectivity. Enter a theoretical protocol called ERSD-RA. Think of it kind of like the proof of work concept in the Bitcoin network, but applied to human brain development. It's a standardized, immutable record-keeping system that acts as the foundational receipt document confirming this human capital. Once the verification thresholds are hit, this protocol issues a provisional receipt certificate. Now, you might be wondering, how do you objectively measure a child's development? The framework fully acknowledges the subjectivity here, but it manages it through intense standardization. We're talking age-normed assessments, structured rubrics, double-blind scoring by independent third parties, and logging it all on an immutable digital ledger. By aggregating all this statistical data, we can objectively verify that a cohort of children has reached that accelerated benchmark. It creates an auditable trail, ensuring this brain gold is a rock-solid, verified asset. Let's jump into Section 4, valuing positive expectations. Once we have verified that this brain gold exists, we need an accounting framework to assign it a rigorous economic value. We have the physical asset. Now we need its monetary equivalent. That's exactly where the PVofPE-Prek calculation comes into play. It puts a precise, present-day dollar amount on early knowledge creation. It does this by looking at direct costs avoided, like reducing the future need for special education or social services, alongside long-term productivity returns, like higher lifetime earnings. It then takes all those expected future benefits and discounts them back to the child's 7th birthday to establish a concrete value.
Because let's be real, a lot can happen as a child grows up. The valuation has to be super conservative. So it projects out to age 23, anticipating a highly realistic, correlated outcome, like getting a 5-year degree or a master trade license. It deliberately avoids projecting super unpredictable outcomes, like everyone getting a master's degree. By anchoring the valuation in solid, understandable milestones at age 23, it provides a realistic baseline for calculating the true present value of that early brain gold.
Finally, Section 5, creating and gifting capital. Let's see how this all comes together.
This is where the magic happens and a local classroom directly connects to the Federal Reserve. You obviously can't base a national monetary system on one single child's assessment, but by statistically pooling thousands of these verified certificates together, you create robust, tradable instruments called USAValuesDebitBonds. This greatly reduces any lingering individual subjectivity, while perfectly retaining the character of true receipts money. Some of these aggregated bonds can be kept by the Fed as a reserve tool, and others can be used directly by the government.
It's actually a lot like that theoretical trillion-dollar coin idea, but this time it is backed by the verified real value of human capital, not just a government decree. Here is the exact flow. The early educational effort creates the physical brain networks, the brain gold. The ERSD protocol verifies it. The Fed then issues base reserves against these bundled bonds, literally creating new money backed by verified knowledge. A portion of that is then gifted to the US Treasury, which records it at market value to directly pay down the national debt. The cascading benefits of the system are honestly staggering. Because kids are entering the system near a 3rd grade readiness level, we can fold kindergarten into preschool and compress the traditional K-12 system into a hyper-efficient grades 1 through 10 model. This frees up massive resources, saves incredible amounts of time and money, and provides a sustainable funding loop scaled entirely on verified outcomes, meaning we can permanently reduce the national debt without relying on inflationary money printing.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought. If knowledge is the truest form of wealth, isn't it time our monetary system finally reseated the genius of a child's mind? We've just explored how physical neural networks, when they're rigorously verified and conservatively valued, could theoretically replace fiat debt as the backing for our currency. It is a fascinating look at how aligning early childhood education with macroeconomic policy could literally change everything. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the systems around you and keep learning.